Good morning. I'm losing track of time. How's everyone doing today? I like to hear that. Everyone enjoying the weather? Awesome. So I just have a couple announcements. Just want to start off with right now, if you look at this gentleman here, he's part of FlipON.TV. We're doing many of the panel rooms, live video recording. So if you get a chance, take a look. Also, we like people taking pictures, but please no flash photography. And I believe the last thing is if you have a phone call, just please take it outside. And if you can, just remember to put your phones on vibrate, silent, whatever. So we're going to get started here. We've got a few people here for you that I'm sure you all know. We're going to start off with Ben, Tom, and Brian Snoddy. I hope I said that right.
Almost. I'm just going to do this. Totally unprofessional. I'm sorry. This way, when I'm like 80, I can like tell my stepdaughter, like, "Oh yeah, I used to be somebody one day."
I think the Dasani bottle should be facing out, so we're building their brand.
That's right.
I see them do it on American Idol all the time.
Okay, so this is building your brand. My name is Ben Thompson. I started. I write a website called Badass of the Week, and I've written a bunch of books also called Badass. You know, I basically got my start in 2004, almost exactly 10 years ago today. Just like I had a desk job and I hated my life, and I would write these little stupid things up on the internet for fun, just like as a joke between like, you know, just to send it to like my 4 friends. And, you know, it started with a weekly following of like, you know, 5 hits a week, you know, me twice and my brother and my mom and, you know, my only 2 friends. And, you know, at this point, it's kind of got built up to the point where I do probably 2 or 3 million hits a month, and, you know, I have these book deals. And so I'm not quite sure how it all happened, but I'm going to try to, you know, explain it here, and we'll try to figure it out. And then I'm going to let my other 2 panelists introduce themselves, because that's all I have prepared.
My name is Tom Zoller. I do a book called Love and Capes, which is a superhero romantic comedy, published through IDW, and I also work on My Little Pony now. I got started, I went to the Kubert School. I kicked around as a caricaturist and an advertising artist for an agency for a while. I was always freelancing, and then in 2001 I decided to go off on my own, because after September 11th there was never a better time to start your own business. But it's worked out ever since. So a lot of what I've done is making sure that I'm constantly promoting the book, that there's a clear broadcast channel of what I do. Nobody runs into me and thinks that thinks I'm currently working for DC or working on horror books or anything like that. I've become pretty well known for Love and Capes. That was part of what I was trying to accomplish. My name is... Your microphone is off.
How do you turn this on?
Probably the on switch.
It is? Oh, I don't think... No, it's not. Just fooling me. My name is Brian Snoddy, and I have been a working commercial artist since September 1st, 1986, back during the Civil War. And I went to the Art Institute of Seattle. I graduated in 1985. I worked in an ad agency, I worked in comics, I worked in Saturday morning cartoons, magazines, historical illustration, sci-fi, fantasy, Dungeons & Dragons, Magic the Gathering. And I have built my art so I can be very flexible, so I can do anything. Concept work, finished art, inking, backgrounds, you name it. That's it.
So it's a pretty diverse group in terms of like, so, you know, I was a web-based guy that does print now. Tom is writer, creator of his own comic book. He was able to get that picked up by IDW. And then Brian is somebody who's been working full-time as a commercial artist. So I think that really the best way to go with this is going to be to take questions from you guys and kind of, you know, see what you're thinking in terms of, you know, what you guys would kind of want to know about, you know. I assume you guys are here because you have good ideas that you want other people to pay you money to produce. And so, you know, just to kind of get an idea of what you guys are looking for, and that'll help us, not just drone on endlessly about stuff you don't care about.
Because we can totally do that.
Yeah, we can totally do that. That's fine. Like, I'll read you excerpts from my book and pitch about how much I want you to buy it, and we can do that for 45 minutes here. But yeah, so do you guys have any questions off the bat that we can get started with?
You, red shirt.
Tom's going to be the designated picker of people who are going to ask questions.
Yes.
So it would be great to hear each of you say how you went about what you believe you did to successfully build your brand. Did you do it from media? Did you do it from print advertising? Did you do it from, going to
Yeah.
blogs?
Yeah.
What were the tools that you used to build your brand?
For me, I'll take the first one. For me, what I did is I made sure it was all consistent. Coming from an advertising background, I could design logos, make sure the colors were consistent, make sure that the Twitter icon I was using was consistent so that it all looked like it belonged to the same thing. And I tried to drive everybody either to the website or to the Twitter account or to the comic book. I have really strong feelings on Twitter. I love it. What? Yeah, I love Twitter. I would love for people to stop being stupid on Twitter. I know that's not going to happen, but part of how I approach it is I don't want to give anyone a reason not to hire me. So I don't post a lot of politics stuff on Twitter because there's no benefit to that. I think sometimes we need to realize exactly what the medium of Twitter is, and perhaps having lengthy, nuanced discussions in 140-character bursts is not the way to go. Because I don't ever want to have to post a tweet and then walk it back for 5 tweets. I would rather just be clear or tell people. Like, here's an example of one of the situations I ran into. So I saw Star Trek Into Darkness, and I hated it on a molecular level. But IDW, my publisher, published a Star Trek. So I was very careful about how I talked about it, because I'm certainly not on camera right now. I was very careful about how I talked about it because the big thing that bothered me is that they decided to redo Wrath of Khan. Spoiler, they redid Wrath of Khan. Because Star Trek has the greatest mission statement in history to explore strange new worlds, and these guys got the keys to the franchise and gave me Star Trek 2. So I was very political about how I posted it. I didn't do it on Twitter because what I wanted to say was more complicated than that, but I'm always conscious of what things am I putting on Twitter that could get my publisher in trouble, that could get me in trouble, that could upset my fan base. So, and it's interesting because I have a goddaughter who very much wants to be on Twitter, but her parents won't let her yet because they're smart. And I keep trying to tell her that everything you post is up there forever. And you may think this is really fun until you're looking for a job. So it's something that I would like people to, for building your brand, I am very conscious of how I present myself on Twitter. My friend Bo Smith says that in public, you're still you, but you're up to 11. There's not a lot of benefit to me saying, oh, I'm having a really bad day, I'm not sure I'm actually a good artist, and I got in a fight with my fiance, and I mean, it's fun to talk about how bad TV shows are, but that's the stuff you don't, because nobody's really tuning in to see you have a bad day, and there are clever ways to do it. I'm going to go on for like another minute more. I'm sorry. It's also important that I have talked about clients on Twitter, and I'm always very vague about it because they follow me on Twitter, so there's no benefit to me saying, oh, I had a client just come up to me with the stupidest question that they made the dumbest change. This book is running so late, and that's only going to get me in trouble. I can talk to my friends about it. I can talk to people about it, in person. I don't have to broadcast that, and I think there's a lot of people who overshare, and they don't realize how they're presenting themselves. If you say, hey, it would be great if somebody could give me a free thing, I know you think you're being clever, but that also sounds really needy, and you want to say, or you can be an adult and pay for it. So those are I'm always factoring that in. It takes me a long time to write a tweet because I'm always thinking about how it could be misinterpreted and if I really want to do it. And there are times, I've even thought of having like a secret Twitter account, but then I realized it will eventually just be revealed that it's me, and it's just me trying to be clever. And I can be clever on a much silenter channel that's not going to get me busted later on.
Yeah, and the number one thing that can torpedo your brand is throwing out something that can wildly alienate your target audience. So it doesn't matter how you feel personally. If you go on Twitter and you say what I hate is Irish people, then
Hey!
all of a sudden Tom unfollows me, a bunch of other people unfollow me, unless your website is fucktheirish.com or something. Like, you know, if that's your brand, then that's your thing, and that's what you got to roll with. Like, I don't know if I'm allowed to swear here, but I hope that that's the case.
I'm sure you just bleeped out. I think it's fracktheirish.com.
So yeah, like if that's your brand, then that's it. Go for it. You know, make a little like, you know, animated GIF of it or something. But like, but I think if you're trying to, you know, anything that you can throw out there to like alienate people, especially like politics, especially like religious kind of stuff. Yeah, there's a lot of like really like super divisive things out there, and you probably already know what they are. And you know, it's very difficult to build your brand, but it is very easy to destroy it. And that's something that, you know, social media is excellent at. You know, and one thing about doing this sort of thing is that like you have to realize that, you know, your personal Facebook page is private and nobody else can really look at that. Well, you know, unless you don't know how to work your privacy settings.
Yeah.
But
or if somebody copies and pastes it and put it out into the world.
or takes a screenshot, yeah. So like, but your Twitter and your Facebook page, the one that you put out there, are very public, and you know, it doesn't seem that way when you're like drunk in your living room at like 2 o'clock in the morning, and you're just like, this is bullshit, you know, like. But when you wake up in the morning, you know, you could see that posted on a message board somewhere, and you got some damage control to take care of.
That's a tough act to follow. Well, basically, my brand is me and my artwork. I stress things like flexibility, range, and reliability. When I was going to art school, I had a great teacher. His name is Jim Dietz. And he came up to class one time. He says, let me tell you something. You want to know how to be successful? He said, it's better to be good and get your work done on time than it is to be a genius and to be late. And I lived that. And every great job I ever got is because I did a really crappy job and I got it done on time and I did a good job and everyone was happy. And they said, oh, well, we want you to work on this. And then I get a better and better and better thing. So. And that's, I don't use social media a lot. If you go to my Facebook page or anything, I put something maybe once a month. I think I put 3 or 4 things up to advertise that I'm coming to this show. But my Facebook rules are nothing religious, no social commentary, nothing political. It's about artwork. My friends do something cool, link to that. Hey, this is great, check it out. I did a new painting, check it out. I'm going to be at this show, come and visit me. And it's to be good to all of you, because without my fans, I'd still be working at dry cleaner getting perchloroethylene poisoning, and my liver would look like a landing craft or something. You know, so I'd be doing that for a living instead of drawing pictures.
Yeah, and hitting deadlines is like you said. I think that's. I want to speak to that for a second, because with the books that I write, one of the things I wanted to kind of retain control over. It was one of the deals that I came up with when I was shopping the book to publishers and stuff, which was, you know, I want to have control over the artwork that goes into my book, because this is my thing, it's my idea, I've been building it, I've been working on this for 7-8 years before I finally got a book deal, and then it was like, okay, you know, I'm not going to let somebody else, I'm not going to hand the reins over and let somebody else like screw this up, because it's a very easy to screw up type of idea. So I was very hardcore about like wanting to have control over the art, and I was like, look, just give me a little bit extra money and let me track down all the artists. I'll take the stress off of you guys. I'll put it on myself and I'll deal with it. And Brian was one of the artists on all the Badass books, and you know, he always would hit the deadlines, and that is actually more rare than you would think among writers and artists and graphic designers and all other types of things. Like, you know, if you're going to tell your fans that you post your articles on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, just post them on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. You know, don't, because as soon as that person tries to go up on a Wednesday and your thing's not there, they're going to be like, oh, well, shit, I'll forget it then. And you know, even if it's not your best work, get it up there, because you have made a commitment to get this thing done, and you need to get it done. And so what happens is, you know, Brian got all his work done on time, got it done well, and so like, when I was struggling towards the end of the book, like a lot of my artists were late and they weren't getting stuff to me, or they were just, you know, giving me these half-assed things that they were doing. And it's like, okay, well, you know what, I'm going to take this work away from this guy. Like, you know what, forget it. I'll give you a kill fee to just stop working on this project. I'm going to give it to Brian because I know he can get it to me in 3 or 4 days.
And so, anyone else on the panel do that for you? Like I'm sitting right here, dude.
Yeah, I know. I got Tom to do it like at a con. I think that like
pretty much. Yeah.
We were sitting. We share a table at these things, and it's like I get an email and the guy's like, oh, this is, I just need like another week to get this done, and I'm like, Tom, can you do this in like 2 days? And he's like, yeah, I got it. You know. boom, you know, next
Speaking
time,
of being
next time
good
there
to
was
your
a book.
fans, we have fans with questions
Oh, yeah.
now.
Good point.
How did it grow the hits?
Without building the brand, so how did you go from five, from your mother and you were an adult, to the level that you got? What was your strategy?
It's tricky. It's a very tricky thing because you want to be aggressive when you're building it, but you don't want to be too aggressive that you sound like you're begging or you're pleading or you're desperate for the help and all that stuff. Like, I think number one is your content. I don't think you can really be pandering to people with your content. I think it really helps to just kind of, you know, with what I was doing, I was just putting out what I was feeling and I was passionate about it and I loved it and my heart was in it and I was bleeding all over the pages when I was typing them up. And I think that resonates with people. I think people can tell, like, people have a pretty good, like, bullshit meter. I think that if you're just trying to, like, clickbait or, you know, get whatever it is, you're trying to, like, pander to them to get hits, I think that they can read that and I think that can turn them off. And I think it's a very tricky balance between building it, posting it on, you know, I think, you know, you're not really supposed to Reddit yourself. You're not really supposed to, like, but, you know, you can have, like, your brother Reddit it for you under a different name or something, you know, like.
Yeah. I think I was doing I try to keep at least a 2-to-1 ratio of content to noise. So I will post something either about a project I'm currently working on, like part of the process. That's how I started. I was doing process pieces of Love and Capes. But I don't want everything to be relentlessly self-promotional. You know, I don't want everything to be about, this is the new thing I have that you can buy. You want to put out some content that people, you know, don't feel like they're obligated to do something with, that you're entertaining them with. I made sure I always interact with my fans. Right now it is at a manageable number, so hopefully there'll come a point where it won't be quite so easy. But if somebody mentions me or gives a good review to the book, I make sure to thank them. I favorite it, I retweet it, whatever I can, so that if someone goes to the trouble of putting an @Love and Capes in their Twitter feed, then I'm going to try to acknowledge the fact that they did it because it takes so little. You know, there might come a point where it takes up more of my bandwidth and I won't be able to do it, but for now, you know, just that kind of interaction. I feel the same way with actors. There's a point where when they're doing the autographing, it's not that I really want them, I know I'm not going to have a conversation, I just want that one moment where they know that I exist too, and it's not that hard to give it, especially with social media, to acknowledge them briefly and let them know that you appreciate what they're doing, and that gets back and improves things.
Yeah, and that's huge, like making a personal connection with your fans, even if you're getting 5 hits. Like, I remember I'd been running my website for 6 months or something when I was like, oh, this person just emailed me through my website and I don't even know who they are. Like, this is so cool. So it's important when you get a connection like that, when you get somebody to reach out to you and they say, hey, I really like what you're doing, to make that connection. And, you know, you don't have to be all like, oh my God, I love you so much. Like, thank you so much for saying that. Like, you're just writing back like, hey, thanks, you know, really appreciate it. You know, this was some crazy thing that I've been working on. Or when somebody comes up to you at your table at a con or something, it's like, you know, take the time, shake their hand, look them in the eyes, tell them, like, you know, thanks so much for coming out. I really appreciate it. Because it's a very easy thing that you can do and a very, you know, takes very little bit of effort. Like, answer all your emails, especially when you're trying to build your brand. Answer every email that comes in, respond to every time somebody posts something on your Facebook wall, because they're reaching out to you, and it's up to you that they've initiated a contact with you. And for them, it's a big deal. Like, they took that time. Like, if you think of how many people you've sent an email to or posted on their Facebook wall, like, they're reaching out to you. And at that point, you really have 2 options. You can do nothing, and that will be a negative connection. They'll be like, oh, that guy's an asshole. He emailed me, never wrote me back, you know? Or you can make this personal connection with them. And then that person, I mean, you never know who you're dealing with, right? So, like, that person could tell their friggin' book club, like, we're going to do this book next, and you've sold 30 copies of it. So, you know, or they could be looking for new properties for a Hollywood production or something, or whatever it is. You don't know who you're talking to, but every time you make a positive connection with somebody, that's good word of mouth that's being generated for you. And when you're trying to build your brand, you can't say no to that.
Especially
One thing I like to add, because being a jerk takes a lot of energy, and I'm basically lazy, so I would rather be nice and happy instead of being a dick, and that takes a lot more energy and burns more calories, so I just thought I'd throw that one out.
Yeah, I think being at a table is it's like being on a first date for 3.5 days straight, where you have to be up. You can't be. The number of people I see sitting at a table checking their phone constantly and playing Angry Birds, if you're not making eye contact,
me.
you're,
Just kidding.
oh, it comes back now. where just making eye contact with people is good, and not I don't always want to be doing a convention. Sometimes I would like to be sleeping, but there's no benefit to me to let people know that I can be up and personable for 7 hours, and then go leave the show and crash if I need to, but it's keeping that energy level up, that level of interaction up, and this is my big thing, but being a little politic in what you say. In that, my big fear at San Diego was always that I would complain about how bad the Green Lantern comic was, and then be sitting behind the Green Lantern editor, and then I guess I'm not getting work from you ever. So it's couching that stuff, but just being personable, that goes a long way. You wouldn't believe how rare that is.
Even when you're miserable, I had a at San Diego Con a couple years ago, I had a girlfriend breaking up with me via text message while I'm at my table, and it's like, it's like, hey, have you heard about my book? It's great. You should buy it. It's amazing. I promise you'll love it.
And the more you do it, the easier it is. If I actually were to start the Love and Capes pitch, I can't stop it. Because it's become
Love and Capes
so
is a superhero romantic comedy.
comedy about a
It's about
superhero
guy.
who says, I love my girlfriend, and I'm going to tell her that, but if I tell her that, I have to tell her everything, like, is there ever a good time to tell your girlfriend you have X-ray vision? What does she want for Christmas when she knows you can crush coal into diamonds? Boom. The advantage of doing that pitch for 5 years, too, is that I don't stumble over it.
That's
I'm
another
pretty
thing
good.
that's like actually kind of be really important with your brand is to just, to get your, it sounds cheesy, it sounds dumb, but get 2 sentences. You don't when somebody asks you what it is that you do, if you get somebody captive and they're listening to you and they want to hear about your product, you don't want to be like, well, it's like this, it's kind of like, Jason Bourne meets, the Transformers, and then you're like, so you don't really have a cohesive thing, so like you got to get it down, like get your tagline down, like you want what it's about, why it's cool, and then like something exciting about it, and maybe something funny if you're trying to go comedy, whatever it is, but get that, they call it an elevator speech, I think, right?
Yeah, elevator pitch.
So get that down and know it so that you can tell somebody what you're about, and they can hear it in 1 sentence before they like get bored and stop paying attention to you. And they won't
You
be
had a
confused.
question? And then you.
Sorry, I sort of developed into a two-part. First is, did you ever have a point when you were first starting out where you just felt really uninteresting and didn't really have any topics?
I'm endlessly fascinating. No, sorry.
And then the second is, have you guys ever done any self-publishing or independent or anything like that where you guys move into paid promotion?
Tom got his start doing
Yeah,
something.
I started self-publishing, which, as I say, is because I had too much money and it was costing me too much to store it, and burning took too long. Self-publishing, it teaches you a lot of the stuff, because since you have to do every aspect of yourself, you get really good at it. The first part of your question was, when we started, did we feel not interesting? It's a carefully cultivated illusion, but I think you can figure out the stuff about yourself that's interesting, or the stuff where there's a little bit of traction, and then you don't mention the rest of it. You lead with the one quality that you have. The first book I did was called Raider. It was an action-adventure story. It didn't do very well. I did 3 of them before I hit on Love and Capes. But I made all my mistakes on Raider. So I learned to have a better elevator pitch. I learned to... The being personable and being at the table, that stuff was always there. I've always been pretty good at small talk. A lot of that also comes from being a caricaturist, where I was one of those guys on the Midway who would draw you at an amusement park, but you're staring at somebody for 5 minutes, and if you don't talk, they get really freaked out. So you learn to have just kind of a natural conversation, and you realize some of it's just give and take. You don't want, like first date, you don't want it to be all about you. You want to compliment them on their cosplay or ask if they've seen anything they like, but you don't want them to feel like they're constantly being pitched to, like at a Midway at an amusement park. You want to have a little bit more interaction with them. As far as paying for things, I did some advertising. You have to be really careful about that. There are really good places to advertise or really bad places to advertise. Sometimes you get deals that aren't deals because you just want to figure out where your market is. And for the things that we do, because for Ben and me with our books, they're not quite normal. In that Love and Capes is a romantic comedy, and I'm selling
Mine's
a
normal.
Yeah, oh, that's right. It's a you there. But I've done interviews with romance magazines, which most comic books wouldn't do, but Love and Capes has a huge romantic aspect to it that's interesting. So you start figuring out the things about you that are different, that you can make a connection with somebody else. I know Ben does a lot of historical military stuff.
Yeah. So I'll pitch stories to like military magazines or like Soldier of Fortune or something like that, where it's like you wouldn't think, because I'm working with D&D artists and comic book artists and I'm making a bunch of like Star Wars jokes and stuff in my stories, like you wouldn't think to go after like Civil War Times magazine, but it's worth it. Every outlet out there can help you for sure.
I'm obsessed with organized crime and the Kennedy assassination, so I worked up a game called Deadfellas, which is about whacking people in the zombie mafia. So stop by my desk and you can check out a copy of it.
I was just curious about your experience with representation and publishers and how that relates to your brand in terms of like, if they try to push you in a different direction or help you or hinder you.
Yeah, no, definitely. I'm going to answer this one real quick because you talked about being uninteresting and feeling miserable, and I can't
Both
read
those things.
Yeah, I'm miserable and uninteresting. No, I can't read anything I've ever written because I hate it. I can't stand it. I think it's like I think it's like a curse of like creative people where like you have these big ideas and I don't know. I just feel like they never come out the way that I wanted them to, or that there's all these other guys who are so much better than me, and I suck, and I don't know why anybody's going to pay me money to do this and all this stuff. I think it's totally normal. Like I get into these funks, and I just think that it'll happen. I think it happens to everybody. You get all these actors and stuff who have all these like clinical depression problems and all these things, and it's got to be kind of similar. Mm-hmm. But I think it's pretty common to like think you suck, and you just have to power through that and be confident, and then.
Yeah, one of the things I learned in art school is you never want to use the word just. You never say, this is just my book, these are just my roughs. These
you
are
can't
your roughs.
appear
These is
unconfident
your book. Yeah.
when you're putting your brand out there.
Yeah.
Well, like I just did.
I know exactly what I'm going to say, and then you're going to laugh. I call it finding your inner Shatner. Captain Kirk had this wonderful way of being completely confident about a situation, even that the Enterprise could be smashed in half, Scotty could be dead. He's like, we'll find a way out of it. There's that. There's finding that confident part of you, and you pretend you're that until you are that, and it's a nice crutch to fall back on. So representation.
Right. With representation, like I think it's very easy for like take when I was pitching Badass, there were 3 or 4 different publishers that were coming after it, and you'd be surprised at how much they can change it and how much control people will want over it. Like one guy wanted to do it like I ended up doing it as as text with these really cool like comic book style art depicting the different. I do like great warriors from history, so I have all this really cool art depicting it. But one group wanted to do it mostly pictures. They wanted to do it like socialist style, like communist propaganda posters, and then like little factoids on the different guys. And then this other group wanted to do more just a straight like history book kind of style. And so there's a lot of different ways that your idea can get fucked up by other people, and it's a very difficult thing where you have to decide like how much artistic integrity do I have, how much am I willing to let you guys like have full control of this, because it's a scary thing like with publishers, like because they kind of can do whatever they want, and once you send them your text, they can come back to you and ask you to make these huge ridiculous crazy changes to it, and if you don't do it, they'll pull the deal. And so, you have to make sure you got to talk to the guys that are going to be your editors before you agree to anything. You have to get your contract double checked by an attorney before you agree to anything, because there's just so many ways that you can get screwed out of your product and have it end up being something that you really aren't proud of or don't want. I feel like in some ways you can be like, it's almost a win-win where like if it comes out great and everybody loves it, you can be like, oh, that was totally my idea, and if it sucks, you can be like, oh, they fucked it up after they got it. But yeah, I mean, there's a lot of like different ways that they can turn it around. And in the end, what you're trying to decide on is like, how much is this project worth to me, and like, can I say no to like this number that they just sent me because I have like artistic integrity. So
yeah. With self-publishing, one of the things that allows you to do creatively is to prove that they're wrong. Because if I went to DC and said, I want to do a Superman romantic comedy book, but we won't see him being Superman very often, and it'll be funny, they would have laughed me out of the office. And so I did it and proved there was a market for it. And part of that is that what I need to be successful and what DC needs to be successful, or any large company, is a lot less, because I have to make my house payment, and they have to employ people and keep their office running and all that kind of stuff. So I'm a little more flexible with that. And once you prove it, it becomes easier to say, I can show you that I have this many fans, and now maybe you want to publish the book. As far as representation, I don't have an agent. I've done all my stuff myself. I wouldn't mind having one but that's a relationship you build. You have to be really convinced by it. I do have a representative who, at the time, Sullivan Capes has been pitched as a TV series. He's the guy who's supposed to keep me from getting hosed. And he works with other people. A lot of it is word of mouth. I know other people he represents in the deals that he's brokered for them. So I think he's a really good guy there. He's the guy who protects me from the studio trying to take everything. So some of it is it's finding someone you trust and not signing anything, not agreeing to anything until you've talked to a lawyer or a rep. I also have an entertainment lawyer who his job is to read the contracts and make sure everything's okay for me before I sign it.
Yeah, I use an agent. I went through this website called Agent Query, Query. I don't know if it's still around or not, but it was great because you can search through all these different agents by like who's accepting new stuff, what they've done before, so you can make sure that there's somebody, and then what sort of stuff they're interested in picking up. And so I have this agent, and he's great. Like he'll negotiate the stuff. He negotiates all the money stuff, so I don't have to because if you're going direct to publishers, they're going to try to screw you because they think that you don't know what you're doing. So you have to if you can get an agent, if you can go through an agent, or if you can work with somebody who will consult with you on it, it'll be worth it. Even if you're paying the guy a couple $100 or you're paying him 10%, he'll get you 20% more than he would have gotten you if you hadn't used an agent. So it was called Agent Query, Query. And so that's where I found my guy, and it was, they know people that you won't have access to. And so it's nice to kind of have that ability as well.
In terms of building an internet following, how much of that is done online through Twitter or Facebook or other things, and how much of it is done in the real world?
Twitter's not the real world.
No.
So much cooler online. I don't know if there's a percentage, because my feeling is that you kind of blanket the attack area. My website and my Twitter handle and my Facebook page are on everything I do. It's listed in my bio page in the book. It's on all my business cards. And then the stuff I do online, like I said, is the interacting. I did follow Fridays for a while. I know that's kind of become less in vogue, but that helps a little bit. You follow interesting people. You try to engage in a conversation every once in a while and contribute something to it. So they're different approaches. One of it is making sure that the information is actually clearly accessible where it is, and the other is using Twitter, using whatever social media you want, and participating in it so that people find you to be a valuable resource to follow.
Yeah, it helps to have relevant I don't know what I'm going to say. Never mind.
Well, you just want to be participatory. You don't.
Yeah.
There are all these lurkers that sit and read, and that's fine if that's what you want to do. But you're not going to get anyone else for doing it. Okay. I'll talk forever. So.
How many times have you been burned while building your brand?
Oh, I'm going to answer that one. A lot. I've been ripped off I don't know how many times. I used to have this thing where I'd go to Gen Con every year, and I'd put on these dark sunglasses and literally just shake people down who owed me money. And I'd have my bills with them, and I'd say, well, it's been 8 months, and you owe me $780. You need to pay it. Oh, well, we don't have our money. Well, there's a cash machine right over there. So, but sometimes they just won't pay, and you can sue them in small claims court, or you can threaten them, or, there's a whole bunch of ways you can do things, but I've been burnt quite a bit of times because I was a freelancer for 23, 24 years. So, and some people, they don't burn you on purpose. They really mean to pay you, but the company goes broke, and they're broke, and they have no money, and they never make good on it.
Yeah.
So,
client-wise, I've had people not pay me, for a bunch of different reasons, and I've taken a couple to small claims court. As a freelancer, I would say make sure that you're not overextending yourself.
yeah.
You'll know which clients pay and which don't, but you don't want to do $20,000 worth of work for somebody and not get any part of it up front or payment in installments and then you're out $20,000 that you thought you were going to get. I have one client who at some point I will go nuclear on, who owes me a huge amount of money, but I wasn't out any money to do his projects. So it was all stuff that I was doing in between other jobs, which made it easy to run up the numbers, but it also mean that it's not like I printed a book and then I'm on the hook for the printing, so I'm out money. As far as building a brand, though, I've never gotten burned building a brand, because if I don't do it right, it just fails on the launch pad, so nobody hears about it. So it's easy to start again or figure out a different way to do it.
The way that you're going to get really burned is that you have to protect your IP like a, like the precious kind of thing. Your IP is worth as much, like, the idea that you come up with, even if it's something silly, it's like, oh, I just had this idea off the top of my head, but maybe I'll write it as a movie. That IP is worth as much as it will ever make in its lifetime. So if you sign that over to somebody and you say, like, okay, well, do what you want, and I'll just take 10% of it, or I'll just take this flat rate and sell the deal over to you for 20 grand or whatever, that person could make a ton of money off of it. So it's kind of a gamble in terms of, like, what is this job going to be worth for me? Because you're selling, especially in a situation where they're going to, like, take it and run with it and do whatever it is that they're going to do with it. Like, I've been pretty lucky with that, because I've been really careful about who I've passed it on to. And make sure it's all written down the way that you want it, and you just, at some point, it's a leap of faith where you're saying, like, I'm putting this project in your hands, but you have to consider that your idea, even if it doesn't sound like, even if it's this crazy idea, nobody that likes it, but you believe in it strongly, like, that idea is worth as much as it will make over the lifetime of the project. So if that becomes a bestseller, if that becomes like a blockbuster movie trilogy, you're out millions, So that's what you're selling away, and you have to treat it like that, because it's not just an idea that came up in your head. People pay good money for those ideas, and just because you can't hold it doesn't mean it's not worth, you might never have to work again because you had this idea.
Yeah, and some of it is doing the math in your head, like, what are you willing to sell for? You see it in the original art market, where people buy it. People buy a page of My Little Pony from me, and then they'll try to flip it on eBay. And I know some artists who get upset about it, but I'm like, I got what I asked. I mean, if you can get more money for it, great. But the deal we struck was that I get this amount of money for it. So, I'm taken care of. I have ideas that I'm willing to burn off, and I have ideas that I'm going to protect. I make sure I get the domain name. When I self-publishing Love and Capes, I was spending the $30 an issue to get them registered with the Library of Congress. Because if you do that, then if somebody does rip you off, and when you sue, you get to sue for statutory damages as well. Statutory, what's the other term? They always sued for it on People's Court. But there's another level that you can do if you've done the registering that way. And there are people who, a lot of times, the penny wise and pound foolish, that you might as well go through the $30, and it seems like a hassle, and it's going to take a while for it to get back to you, but it's just safer for you in the long run. You're going to regret not doing it more than you will regret having spent $30 to do it.
Yeah. So I think we got like 5 minutes left. So we'll do one more, and then.
Here, you.
When you create a character and you take it to an artist to conceptualize your character, how do you differentiate between how much you came up with and how much they came up with?
Oh, like what part of it?
That's
you
an
own?
agreement between really you guys. You can write something down. You can pay, for example, I've come up with characters for many companies. And they say, well, we're going to pay you this much money, and by the way, we own that character. And then when they do that, I'll charge them a little more, because it's free and clear. I don't own it. I can display it, but I can't do anything with them. And that would be a deal you would make with your artist.
Yeah,
you
have
own
to-
them together,
you
and you get 50-50. Each person's different.
Yeah, you have to decide with him like how much of it you own and how much of it he created. Because
And as an artist, I get approached by a lot of people who they want to do a project, but they don't want to pay up front. They're like, oh, but this is going to be huge, and we'll split the profits. And you got to decide if you really believe in the project, or if you're. One of the things I've come back with is, yeah, but I don't want to deal with that part because I'm really busy. So, since you're so convinced it's going to go great, why don't you just give me my half up front, and you'll make more money in the long run because you'll be participating in it, and then they don't email back. So, any other? I think we have a little more time than we were figuring, because math is hard.
there's been a temporal shift. And
Here, in the back. Yes, you, Thor-looking guy.
Yes? Well, I had an incident where I went to a historical show and I did some samurai artwork for it. Not for it, but I displayed it. And somebody took a picture and put it up on one of these wiki whatever sites. Well, they had permission to do that. Well, some outfit in New Jersey pulled it off and made, quote, museum quality prints from it and was selling it online. And it's one of these houses where they have 16, 17, 18 websites. They're all different names, but they all had that on there. So I went to the FBI. They did nothing. I wrote the Attorney General in Washington State and New Jersey. They both told me to write each other. And the Better Business Bureau, too, which they both told me to write each other. So I finally went to a lawyer and I said, look, I want these guys to knock it off. And he said, well, we could sue them, but it's going to cost you $100,000. I said, well, you got change for $1 million? And afterwards, I explained that I preferred the Tony Soprano method of dealing with these people, but I didn't feel like going to prison. I'm a little wiser than I used to be when I was in my 20s. And so I just wrote him a letter saying, you know, this is my artwork. I'm really upset about it. You're engaged in fraud because this is not museum quality artwork. You had no ties to the original. And you should apologize to all the people who bought this and send them their money back. Well, they took it off their website for a short time. Well, I noticed it's back up. So there's only so much you can do. You know, I could go over there with a golf club and just the windows of their car, but, you know, I don't want to do that. I want to do that, but I don't want to get in trouble.
I haven't
I
run.
hope that helps you.
I haven't run in that specific situation. I will say that any image I put up on the website has my watermark on it. But one of the nice things about social media is you can get creative. I don't know if any of you guys followed what happened with Jonathan Colton in Glee, but they took his song and did it on Glee and said, well, you should be grateful for the promotion we gave you by not using your name. And then Jonathan Colton took to Twitter and got his version of the song, which I think he renamed in the style of Glee, and put it up on iTunes and managed to get his song above Glee's version. And it became the social media storm where that is an option that we have that we didn't have before, where if you know the right people, if they follow you, you can get your message out to scorch the earth for somebody who's in your way.
If they're direct linking to your thing and stealing to your image and stealing it on their website, like putting the URL for it, then you get some horrific photo and you rename it that and you upload it.
Yeah, that
So
did
that
happen.
when
to
it
me.
direct links, it'll pull up some horrible thing.
Yeah, I put a mark on it that said this image stolen from Tom Zoller Art Studios.
I was thinking like you put a huge dick or something. Like.
See, that's the difference between us, man.
By the way, there's none of that imagery on my artwork or my website, just to let you know.
Yes.
Related to that, with again this Google age that we're in, do you find sometimes that fighting for the possession of the IP isn't worth necessarily the publicity you might get from something like that? Or are you at a point now where that doesn't occur anymore? You kind of understand what I mean by like if someone's putting your work out there and giving it attention, is that publicity?
Oh, okay.
Fighting for the control of the rights of their.
As long as it links back to me, as long as there is attribution, I'm okay with it. I did an illustration of the San Diego Toucan as one of the Spartans from 300 to celebrate everybody trying to get tickets for Comic-Con. And this is another Twitter branding thing. I am not making fun of anyone who waits in line for San Diego because they buy my book. And if they didn't show up, I would not be going to San Diego and I might not have my career. So there are so many people who they just snark on it, and I'm like, for God's sake, they're the reason you have a job. So let's celebrate these guys. So that was picked up by a website, and they did give me attribution. If they hadn't, I would have mentioned it. What I did do, I'm a big fan of taking media cycles and making them my own. So when that came out, I made sure to link to their article saying, hey, Robot 6 picked up my artwork. When DC Comics came out with the Superman Wonder Woman comic book, I made sure to use this as an opportunity to promote Love and Capes, which has similar aspects to it. So you can always kind of turn into the skid. At least that's where I am right now. I haven't had aside from that one illustration that was taken, I haven't had anyone take things where I thought it was diminishing my work.
Yeah, I mean, you have to. It also kind of depends on what your primary revenue stream is. Like, if it's web ads, then it's worth it to email the guy and say, hey, look, you know, I saw you used this picture from my website. Can you just like put a little link to it under there, and so that somebody likes it, they can come to my site, and then that'll increase my. If your revenue stream is like books or some kind of physical thing, a TV show you want them to watch, then I don't think there's if they steal like
And
they're
most
still going to
people,
drive
in my
towards
opinion, are
buying it.
pretty cool about that. In the past couple of years, I've had maybe 3 or 4 people. It's, oh, I really like this image. Can I put it on my this? Yeah, just put my name credits. Oh, no problem. I'll put your website. Do you want an address or telephone number? No, website's fine. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, 'cause
And
they're
that's
opening
most
up to-
people, actually.
It's
Yeah.
it's better to assume people are stupid than evil.
Yeah,
At least start from there.
yeah. I'm teetering on the cliff of stupid people myself, just kind of but that's me.
Any other questions? Yes. It was the last time I did it. I thought it was $30 to register a comic. You sent them the finished comic book, yeah. Yes, the whole book, and the copyright website is surprisingly user friendly. Where the forms are pretty easy to access. You print them out and send it in with a check, and it takes sometimes 6 to 8 months to get back, but then it's registered and taken care of. So some of that too. Oh no, yes, please.
No, I was going to say, as you build your brand and you become a known person out there in the internet and whatnot, there is the issue of then having the troll or the hater or the
Oh, yeah.
guy.
Whatever.
Everybody loves me.
Yeah.
Have you run into that? What are some of your do you feel like you were successful?
So I work on a book called My Little Pony, and pony fans are very passionate. I tend to take a quantum mechanical approach to some of that, where if I don't view it, it doesn't exist. That's sometimes the safer route. It doesn't pay to engage very often. See, now we're down to 5 minutes.
Okay, guys,
doesn't
we got
pay-
5 minutes left, just FYI.
It doesn't pay to engage. I mean, if there's something that they're actually factually wrong about, and it's written in a tone that you think you can, if I can't think of a good example right now. The closest I came was there's a script I turned in for I wrote an episode. Wait, I can't say that. So anyway, I got a note back on the script that said, "Oh, I was really worried that you did X." And normally when you get criticism back, it's not good to try to defend it. And so I had a list of like 11 things that he commented on, and 10 of them were right, and he was completely right about them. And I did take the one aside and said, "Oh, I misunderstood the parameters of what you were asking for. So I never would have given you that if I thought you were asking for this." But you have to be very careful about it. You don't want to get defensive. It doesn't pay to be involved with it. And pony fans, for the most part, have been wonderful. There are people who haven't liked my stuff, but you're not required to. But if I started trying to defend myself repeatedly, I would seem really petulant. I think it was Ronald Reagan who just didn't engage with that stuff. He's like, don't let him, don't fight the small battles. You want to seem like you're bigger than that. Yeah, I can take what you're saying about me. It's not going to bother me that much.
I practice complete avoidance. I don't read any of my Amazon reviews. I don't. I'm the sort of person that I can get 50 emails. It's like, "You're awesome. This is the best shit ever. You're amazing." And then one person is just all lowercase, "You suck. Fuck off." And then I'm just goes to what you're talking about. I was like, "I suck. I don't know why I'm doing this. I don't know what I'm doing with my life. I'm just gonna drink myself retarded until I die from it." So I just can't handle it. I have a person that I pay her $50 a month, and she forwards me the emails that she wants me to respond to. And I don't read my Amazon reviews. I don't read anything that's been written about my website. I just completely go, hermit about it. But yeah, I mean, the best thing you can do is ignore it, because as soon as you respond to it, it's going to invite. Even if you slam that person really good and you stick it to them, because that was my first attempts at that, was to just kind of write this guy back. I was like, "No, fuck you, buddy. What do you think about that?"
Clever retort.
Yeah, that's right. I'm full of them. And so when you burn them, you're real sick, like I just did. Maybe that guy's out of it, but then these other people are going to test you on it. There's people who don't even hate your stuff. They're just haters, and they just come to your thing and they just want to write shit because they want to see what you're going to say back about it. And so you can't encourage it, because no matter how pissed off you are, there's going to be, for every one that you deal with, you're encouraging him to respond to you, and then 20 more idiots to send you hateful stuff. And it's a losing battle. If you've ever been on Call of Duty on Xbox Live. Like, you're just going to be, the world is full of people that are going to tell you you're a fucking asshole. So
Okay.
We're getting the.
Here.
Okay.
we're getting the gong.
Thank you, everybody,
Thank you so
for
much
showing.
coming.
Thank you.
Wait, we're at AA03, Ben and I, and you are at?
I'm at N17 in Artist Alley.
Yeah,
Come
come,
and
by if you
visit
have
us.
other questions. Take candy.
You've just given away the candy for everybody who's coming.
Well, I'm going to take the pink.